Hello, everyone. Welcome to NFL Chiggity once again. Today, we're going to be going over the NFC South, which is a very unique division in the course of the NFL for a number of reasons. Some very similar teams, no real question marks at quarterback. We have last year's division champion, Carolina Panthers. But before we get into that, we just want to say there will be a special midweek podcast of NFL Chiggity this week where we'll be taking comments from you, essentially talking about whatever topics you guys bring up, whatever topics you want us to talk about, that's what we'll be doing. So be sure to tune in for that. But for now, we'll jump into the Atlanta Falcons. Oh, no. We'll jump into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to talk about their season from last year. Jake, why don't you give your initial thoughts about last year and their offseason so far?
Well, I was shocked that Jameis was so good last year for them. I think their best move of the offseason might have been not bringing anyone in, but the Doug Martin contract. I mean, it was a lot of money for a running back, but it's only the first 2 years. $15 million guaranteed, $35 million total. But I was not expecting such a bounce back year from him last year. 4.9 yards a carry, 1,400 rushing yards. That was probably their best move. I love the Hargraves pick.
Oh, that was a great pick.
Yeah, that was a great pick.
I thought they stole
You're pretty
him.
high on Tampa.
Yeah.
I like Tampa as well.
Yeah, I think they're going to have a big, not a big year, but a big jump. 8-8, 9-7. I wouldn't be surprised. But we'll talk about more of that later.
Jason, you want to give initial thoughts before we get into some argument?
Sure. I agree with Jake. The Doug Martin, or re-signing Doug Martin was big. He had a big season last year, and I think the running game with a young quarterback is very important. So keeping Doug Martin, love it. 5-year deal will be there for the rest of his career. I like the J.R. Sweezy. I believe they signed J.R. Sweezy to a 5-year deal.
Yeah, 5-year deal.
I like that as well. He was a good guard and one of the only good offensive linemen, in my opinion, in Seattle, which that's another topic. But
Yeah, and his friendly contract. Very friendly contract.
Yeah, and he's a decent player. I think he can help them a little bit. Logan Mankins retired, so they did need to replace him. Brent Grimes, that wasn't bad either. You know, I mean, he had a down year in Atlanta. Or, I mean, not Atlanta. Miami. Yes. Sorry about that. He had a down year in Miami. Before that, though, Brent Grimes, in my opinion, was one of the best corners in football. And Robert Ayers, it's a good sign. I like that as well. So, yeah, I like Tampa's offseason. I think they're only going to get better. They're a young team. They have a good I like their defense a lot. One thing that you didn't go over, though, Jake, is that they fired Lovie Smith and promoted Dirk Cotter to head coach. So I don't know how that will affect anything, but
that's where I was going to pivot next. I think that's one of the bigger surprises of the offseason, moves of the offseason. Apparently, they really liked Dirk Cotter. That was the motivation behind the deal. But it's hard to argue Lovie Smith was bad enough to get fired.
Maybe they thought Dirk Cotter would eventually become a head coach, and that would stunt Jameis's growth. Maybe he would have to learn a new offense. I don't know, something of that nature.
Yeah, I think that was part of the rationale. They liked how he got along with Jameis Winston. I understand it. And I also understand for a defensive guy, Lovie Smith's defenses weren't great in Tampa. So I could see the disappointment there. On the other hand, you could say he really had a deficiency of talent on defense. They kind of, I think, realized
especially in the secondary.
Yeah, so they made moves to rectify that this offseason. Oh, especially after they got rid of Revis originally. They've just been a revolving door. Problems. Of, I think, what you'd even call replacement-level players, something like that. They haven't. So Brent Grimes should help fix that.
And Hargraves. Don't forget Hargraves.
Robert Ayers will help with the pass rush, at least, to prevent big plays. All that stuff's good, and I don't think they took a lot of long-term risks with any of those players. So I think they've improved a lot on defense. The question, of course, is how the defense adjusts to a totally new... I mean, I'm assuming they got a new coordinator, although actually I haven't checked that.
And one more thing, they drafted Noah Spence, who is a first-round talent, but I believe had off-the-field issues. So there's another addition to the pass rush, which in my opinion is already very strong. They have a really good defense on paper. I like their defense a lot. I love this whole. Honestly, I love this whole division. I really do. I think all of these teams have potential to win the division. I think
Spence
3 could make the playoffs.
Spence got suspended for ecstasy.
Ecstasy?
Yeah.
Oh man.
So if he's not doing that, he might be good. Interestingly enough, by the way, they hired Mike Smith as their defensive coordinator.
Mike Smith. Did they really? I didn't know, but I didn't know
Former
that.
Falcons coach, whose defenses were never. I don't know if they were ever the strongest, but that also had a lot to do with personnel.
I think that's
I don't
a
know.
great
I'm
hire.
really
though.
high
Dirk
on
Cotter was Mike Smith's offensive coordinator in Atlanta.
Yeah, so there's the connection.
Yeah.
I don't personally. I know you guys mentioned it as a positive. I don't love the Doug Martin contract. Although I guess
you're not a fan of running backs getting contracts. You think they're just a dime a dozen, right?
Essentially, especially Doug Martin's. He's had like 2 good years, 2 or 3 bad years. He seems very hit or miss, and I think it's a lot related to what's around him. Last year they started playing better on offense. He had a better year. I just think they could have get by with whoever the backup was. I think it's Charles Sims and draft a running back. I think it's a misallocation of money, but probably not.
I liked it because it's only like really essentially a 2-year contract. They haven't any guaranteed money.
That's true. So what? Would it be like 2 years, $15 million?
Yeah.
That still seems steep to me, but yeah, it's not.
All right, Kyle, for an elite running back, then what is your pay? Like, if let's say that you had the best running back in football, and you were the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm not saying Doug Martin is. I'm just saying in general, you had the best running back in football on your team, and he was about to become a free agent. What is your max to pay him?
Well, I mean, if it's Adrian Peterson from 5 years ago, I'd give him big money, but who would you say the best running back in football is right now?
Right now, I do agree with you, though. Like, there's not, like, a clear-cut one.
No, and even someone like Le'Veon Bell, who a lot of people would have said
he ripped up his
has
ACL.
Injury issues. I do think the top guys deserve some money. I don't think Doug Martin's that guy.
I think he's below that. I think he's very good. Yeah.
I think he's very good.
I think he's very good.
I think it was worth taking a risk if it's only 2 years. Essentially, if you can cut him if he's not performing after that.
Young quarterbacks, I think they need a running game. It just makes everything so much easier. So, I mean, I like the signing. I mean, if Doug Martin goes out and has another year like he did last year, I don't think anyone will be complaining. So,
well, I hope he has 2 good years like that, which
Yeah.
is as many as he's had in his whole career. That's interesting, though. You said about running backs having or you need a running back to do well, because I think as much as you need a running back, you need a good offensive line, and that's something that I think Tampa might get a little criticism for. The only move they made on the offensive line this offseason was signing J.R. Sweezy from Seattle, known more for run blocking than pass blocking.
yes, you are right. And Logan Mankins retired.
Right, he's replacing him, so it's probably a downgrade. The rest of their line hasn't been great, but we'll see. I'm pretty high, as much as I hate to say it, on Jameis Winston as a player. I'm pretty high on the Bucs as a team because of that, and I think their defense will get better. They've, in the past, had a couple stars, guys like Levante David and McCoy, surrounded by pretty players. I think the players are now pretty decent players, so I think they could be pretty dynamic, and offensively, I think they'll be good as well.
What do you think of Mike Evans? What do you think he's going to have a bounce back year? He had a really good rookie year. Well, second half of the rookie year, it was really good. And then this season, he had a lot of drops. He was good, but I expected a lot more out of him in year 2. I think he had a little bit of a sophomore slump.
I think that drops are a problem he can fix, so I think he'll be fine.
I think he's going to have a good year. I think Tampa, in general, is going to have a pretty good year.
Yeah, I mean, Jameis shocked me last year. I was not expecting that. And I think we'll keep progressing.
I'm huge on Tampa.
Yeah.
Move on to a team I'm not so huge about. If you guys are you good with Tampa?
I'm good with Tampa.
I'm good with Tampa.
Well, then let's move on to New Orleans, the perennially horrible team propped up by Drew Brees' amazingness. That might be a little harsh, but yeah, we'll talk about it. Jason, you want to start this one off?
Sure. Well, they're off season. They got rid of Jari Evans, who apparently is done because nobody picked him up. I thought he would have been a good fit for the Eagles. They cut Marcus Colston, who I think is also done. I think you could see that last year that he was done. Which weirdly extended, I knew this, they extended Sean Payton on a 5-year contract after rumors of him getting fired, which was a little weird to me, but that's okay. I think Sean Payton's a great coach. Fine with that. I don't like the Kobe Fleener deal, even though I think it's front-loaded. What is it, like $14 million guaranteed or something?
Yeah, it was, here I got it up.
Okay.
14.6 guaranteed.
Okay.
Mike Evans had 1,200 yards last year.
Oh, wow.
I think the fact that he only had 2 or 3 touchdowns kind of colored people's opinions, but he actually had, like, if 1,200 yards in your second year is viewed as a bad season, you're probably pretty decent.
Well, it was his drops that were the
He had
problem.
so many drops, yeah.
Couldn't have had that many.
All right, well, getting back to New Orleans.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we're done with Tampa for now. They signed Nick Fairley to a 1-year contract. I like that. It wasn't very expensive from what I remember. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know that it wasn't that expensive. I think it was like $3 million.
Yeah, $3 million. 1 year, $3 million. 2.3 guaranteed.
They
I
extended
think.
Teron Armstead, which in my opinion is great. That guy is a super athletic tackle. He ran like a 4.6 at the combine. I know that doesn't matter for how he plays in the NFL, but just saying he's very athletic. I like athletic tackles. They drafted Mike Thomas, and they also drafted another receiver. Can you help me? Something in my mind right now. They drafted Mike Thomas or Michael Thomas.
I'm pulling up their draft.
I know they drafted 2 receivers. Braxton Moore went to Houston, I think.
Don't exactly remember.
Or did they only draft one? They might have only drafted one, actually. I'm sorry. I think I'm thinking about the Texans. I am thinking about the Texans. Will Fuller and Braxton Miller. I'm sorry, Jake.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't see any. I saw a running back, not a receiver.
And, yeah, I mean, I like New Orleans offseason. I just think that the window closed on them. I don't see them winning a championship. I think they could be good because people don't remember this. They had the number 1 ranked offense in football last year, I think. Number 1 or number 2. It was just the defense was historically bad.
They had, according to advanced stats, I think they were the worst defense ever, even in comparison to the rest of the league. They were, or at least up until they fired Rob Ryan, they were. I think they improved a bit after that, but no, they were horrendous. And it's the product of a few years of bad decisions. The Junior Galette contract extension and the major problems with him. Jarius Byrd, they've had major problems.
Oh, Jarius Byrd, that one was terrible.
They've traded up a lot in the past. Yeah, I remember Eagles fans, we wanted him so bad, I guess.
And then we got the guy who Jarius Byrd replaced, who is one of the best safeties in football now.
Yeah.
So that was a bad move for the Saints. They let Malcolm Jenkins go for him. But really, I think they can only get better from last year. I think the defense, it can't be as bad as it was last season, right?
Right? Yeah, the defense, but as a whole, like, if Breeze starts to regress.
I say that every year, and I
decline,
the
proper word.
I feel like he does regress, but the numbers at the end of the year, they add up. Like, he's just great. He's a great quarterback.
I
think he's going to be great till the day he retires.
We thought that about Peyton, too, and look how that happened. Or turned out.
Yeah, but Peyton also had a neck injury.
That's true.
Brees' decline, if it's going to happen, it hasn't started yet.
I agree with Kyle.
I agree with you, Kyle.
I think he's got at least 2 good years left in him.
And he's had years.
He carries that entire team. They're awful, but Brees is amazing.
And he's had years of bad defense, bad field position to deal with, not necessarily great weapons all the time. And he's still.
Speaking of Drew Brees' weapons, a name to watch out for this year. He's already he was a first-round pick, so people know him. But Brandon Cooks, I think he's going to have a really, really big year this year for New Orleans.
Yeah, I think he's a promising player. He's another example of one of those guys that he better be, though, because the Saints, I don't know if you remember, they moved up in the draft to pick him. And he's been pretty good. It's not an egregious move. It's an example of the type of gamble they've taken that hasn't paid them off, which has left them in this roster situation.
And serious cap issues, too, from what I understand.
Yeah, they have. So it's amazing. They don't have very good players, and yet they actually had to, when they signed Nick Fairley this offseason, which is probably a good move, they had to build voided years into his contract to fit him under the cap. They already have dead money on next year's cap from Nick Fairley, despite the fact that he's never played for them and they haven't cut him.
That's really interesting. Interesting name I saw on their signings list, which is a guy I always wanted to see get a shot, like a real shot in the NFL. They signed Philip Hunt. You remember that guy?
Philip Hunt, was he the running back?
No, he was the defensive end on the Eagles.
Yep.
Oh, that was another. We had a Hunt that was a running back a while ago. I was like,
yeah,
he's still lingering around the NFL?
No, Philip Hunt, who had a really promising
preseason or something?
Or no, it was rookie year when the time he played. He didn't play much. And he was really good in the Canadian Football League. So it's good to see him get another shot. Really random.
I actually don't think I remember that.
I'm surprised you, of all people, don't.
I know, I usually have a pretty good memory with stuff like that, but I remember the name is familiar to me, but I don't exactly remember him.
Also, what do you guys think of the Von Bell trade? Trading up to get him.
The safety?
Yeah, I really like the player, but they didn't have a lot of draft picks to begin with.
I think the Saints are like gasping for air a little bit. I think they're just like they're just trying to get one more championship with Breeze. Do you guys agree with me? That's what it seems like they're doing a little bit.
Yeah, no,
not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
I don't think, but
they've been making moves for 5 years that were only designed to help that year. Like the last few years, it's been, oh, this is the year they're going all in, and if it doesn't work, they're going to have to blow it up. And then the next year, oh, they're going all in. And by going all in, they've been putting a lot of money on contracts, doing all this short-term stuff. And every year it hasn't worked. And then they've been in an even worse position for next year. And Von Bell may turn into a fantastic player. I have no idea. But you keep assuming you're going to be such good talent evaluators in the draft, and you keep failing so miserably, is how you get to where the Saints were, or are.
I mean,
I'm sorry, I'm so down on the Saints.
Yeah, I am with you, but
Bell. I'm not down. I just don't think they're going to be. I don't think they're going to win a Super Bowl.
Like Bell is arguably a first-round player.
You have one of the best quarterbacks in football.
You go.
I'm sorry.
You go.
No, I was just saying, you have one of the best quarterbacks in football, and you consistently put this type of talent around him. Worst defense in the NFL, not great weapons. Without Drew Brees, they're a 2-win team.
Yeah, but they are really incredibly terrible.
They're not even good at home anymore.
No,
which is crazy. Like, I don't know if obviously you remember this. I mean, they were unbeatable in that dome. Unbeatable.
So
they were 4-4 at home last year. That was it.
That's unbelievable to me. Unbelievable.
Can I give a couple stats about their defense, just so I can totally roast them? According to now, these are advanced stats, so I know there are people out there whose eyes will glaze over, but they're pretty illustrative. According to value over average of their defense, which is an advanced stat from Football Outsiders, the 31st worst defense in the NFL, the Bears, were closer in performance to the 12th place Patriots than they were to the Saints in 32nd.
Oh, wow. So there was a huge gap between 31 and 32. But it was by far.
Yeah,
wow.
No, it was like the 50th best defense.
Were they the worst ever?
They were about, yeah. They also, in terms of total QBR from ESPN, they allowed a 78.8 QBR to opposing quarterbacks.
That's like if that quarterback was one single player, he's like an MVP.
He'd be the second top-ranked quarterback in the NFL last year.
That's unbelievably bad. Wow. So,
with that backdrop, the Saints thought it was a good idea to give a tight end a 5-year, $36 million deal.
Yeah, I mean,
who honestly isn't even that good.
No, I was going to say, I hate Kobe Fleener. I think he's a guy that's overrated just from his name, which was his name coming into the draft, not even
and was he
from the NFL, his NFL play.
I don't like that signing, but look, their defense, they have nowhere to go but up, and I think the offense is going to continue to improve. I like the Saints. I just don't think they will win the division. I think they could be good. Just don't think they'll win the division.
No, I think 6-10.
I think they're going to be a disaster that's salvaged by Drew Brees, and I have no idea how their GM still has his job.
I'm with you, Kyle.
Okay, let's move on to a team that I can be a bit more positive about, and maybe we all can. Although Jason's always positive. Jason's a very positive human being. We'll go to Atlanta. He is. You are. Atlanta Falcons.
Before we get to Atlanta, can we just take a quick break, guys?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll pause for commercials. This podcast, as always, brought to you by Our Time. We pay our time to record this podcast for you. Yeah, we're gonna.
We'll be right back.
Sure.
All right, we're back.
He's up.
Ready to go.
We're back, everyone. Had to take care of some pet issues, but we'll move on to the Falcons.
I apologize.
It was a good podcast intermission, I think. So Atlanta, the team of hot starts, sad finishes, good offense, and bad defense, pretty much perennially. Anyone?
Every year.
Well, you guys see the Alex Mack contract.
I was about to say, I like that. I like the signing of Alex Mack.
Yeah, no, I can agree with
big
that.
time.
Yeah, I mean, 5 years, $45 million, 20 guaranteed. Not bad for a good player.
Really
Really
solid
good
player.
Yeah.
That was
I mean, I think you
really
built through the
bad
lines.
team. And
Wow.
they signed also Sean Weatherspoon too. I like that. Let's see, Charles Godfrey, backup kind of player. I'm just looking at their signings. I can't remember. It's nice to have it in front of you. So I'm looking here. Anything like pops out at me. Ooh,
I think
honestly, the offseason wasn't really anything special.
No, but it wasn't bad either.
Wasn't bad either. Yeah, I'm just saying they cut Roddy White. I guess that would be a big a splash.
it's
One of
a
the best
splash,
receivers in the
but
history of their franchise.
It's a splash that's been coming. It's like
Yeah, I mean everyone knew he was like not really involved in their offense last year.
Yeah, it's like if you yelled cannonball before you jumped or before you climbed the ladder of the diving board, and then a few minutes later, people aren't surprised when you jump off the diving board.
That's a really interesting metaphor.
Yeah, I kind of
Not
like
the
that
first
a
thing I
lot,
would have thought
Kyle,
of,
not
but
gonna lie.
that's very good.
I do my best. So
They also
yeah,
signed
cutting-
Courtney Upshaw, who, from what I understand, I think Courtney Upshaw was a first round pick, right? 2010, I think.
I think he was.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
he was.
Courtney Upshaw. He was a bust with, what I believe, the Ravens,
Which is rare.
which is very rare. They draft well. Let's see, was he a first round pick? Because I think he has talent.
He was second
He was a
round.
second round pick. Second round pick. Courtney Upshaw was. Yeah, Atlanta. I think they're going to be very similar to what they've always been. I don't see them winning a Super Bowl. Sorry for any Falcons fans. I like Matt Ryan in the regular season. I just don't see him being a quarterback that can win a Super Bowl.
Who was Atlanta's first round pick? And first of all, hold on.
Keanu Neal, the safety from where did he go to college? They drafted Keanu Neal, safety.
Wait, hold on. But you just said Matt Ryan's not a Super Bowl winning quarterback?
I don't think so.
He was a top 10 quarterback last year, easily.
I'm sure he was, but he played for Florida, by the way. There are
You
some
went to
players
Florida.
that will never win a Super Bowl. I'm not saying they're not good. I'm just saying, but whether it's the team, they're just not going to win a Super Bowl. It's Tony Romo, Matt Ryan. Tony Romo and Matt Ryan are the two top ones.
Most players will never win a Super Bowl, though. Matt Ryan has gotten the Falcons one of the best records in the NFL with an air defense a couple times. He's a very good quarterback. You give him a good defense, it could absolutely win. It may not be likely, but he's at the level you need to win.
Really interesting thing about Atlanta. According to DVOA, their offense is only 23rd, which I thought was pretty shocking. I thought it was a lot better than that, especially with how great Matt Ryan was last year.
Julio Jones too.
I mean, Matt Ryan was
Well,
easily a top 10 quarterback.
Matt Ryan wasn't great in the second half of the year.
No, but you would still think when
Pretty
you have
good.
solid quarterback play, you'd be better than that.
I agree.
61.8 total QBR.
They were the only team to beat Carolina in the regular season, at least.
They were. I mean, that was bound to happen though. An in-division game. I mean, that also. They ended 8-8, right?
Yes,
I believe
so.
8-8 Atlanta ended.
After starting
they
6-0.
started 6 or 5-0. I think they
Was
started.
it 5?
Really?
5-0.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really interesting note though on them beating the Panthers. That was their only division win on the year.
Really? They went 1-5 in division?
Yep.
Oh man, I did not know that. Wow, that's really bad actually.
Yeah. I can't believe that. Their only win was that one against the Panthers in the division.
Wow.
I mean,
Looking
getting
at their,
swept by the Saints.
that's really bad.
Swept by Tampa.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm even more impressed by the Saints.
I guess it also depends when they played Tampa. If they played Tampa early in the year and lost, which they didn't, so fair play, I guess.
They played Tampa at the end, the very end. I think
And they played them in November, so that's not egregious. Yeah, I'm surprised at the offense. Especially with Julio Jones started the year on a historic pace.
Yes.
Yeah, he was on pace to break all kinds of records.
Oh.
Also, another interesting
they just
note.
dipped after they showed their true colors. Did anybody expect them to be really good?
Oh no, I thought they would wind up 8-8, 9-7.
I think they were probably
exactly. So they ended where
Where
I
you
thought they would end up.
But after
where
that
most people
start,
did.
I was shocked. But another interesting note about the division: not one team, or of the other than the Panthers, not one of the other teams had a positive point differential.
Really?
Yeah.
Now that makes a lot of sense actually, because two of them had losing records, and the Falcons were, like I said, I think they were worse than the record. I can't think of anything they did particularly greatly. So,
Other than the first, they were pretty. Honestly, actually, even in the first 5 weeks, I mean, they beat the Eagles 7-9, the Giants 6-10, the Cowboys 4-12, the Texans. What did they go 9-7? Won a shitty division.
but they were bad.
Part of my French
too.
And then they beat the Redskins in overtime before the Redskins, got hot. They beat them in week 5.
And if you remember, the Eagles and Giants wins were both kind of fluky. Not fluky, but very close. Could have gone either way games.
The Giants one was the one where they screwed up. The Giants were bad with the clock or something, right?
Yeah.
Like that. I remember. Yeah, 2 weeks in a row. I remember that.
Yeah, they had the one with Dallas. I want to go to two other things about Atlanta. I guess, first of all, Mohamed Sanu. Anything?
I'm not a huge fan of. Oh my god, how did I forget to mention
Yeah, we were
that?
talking about it earlier.
Yeah, before we started recording, we were talking about that. I like Sanu, but he's not worth the money they gave him. They overpaid him.
Yeah, I'm emotionally attached to Sanu, but that was not a good contract.
No, not at all. I mean, he wasn't really that. I mean, he's a Swiss Army knife. I mean, he can throw, he can catch, he can run, but as a pure number 2 I mean, I guess he's a decent number 2, but I don't know. I'm not a fan of that signing. I think it's a waste of money.
Yeah,
He's never
5 years,
actually been a
$32 million. That's a lot.
Yeah, no,
They could have put that money in so many other places.
I don't even think he's a decent number 2. I don't think he's a starter.
No, I think he's a 3.
He has 1,700 career. Is that right? 1,700 career receiving yards.
It very well may be. He got hurt his rookie year. I remember that.
But that's pretty bad actually. That's for 4 years.
I'm gonna look at that. I want to look at it like his yearly, the breakdown year by year. I think last season was his best year. Oh my god, he didn't catch a touchdown pass last year. He had 33 receptions for 394 yards and 0 touchdowns.
Yeah, and he got $32.5 million.
Wow. That's crazy. He had a rushing touchdown, I think, though.
Oh.
I remember
There
watching
you
it on
go.
Thursday Night
Wow, a
Football.
rushing touchdown from a wide receiver.
I'm just throwing it out there. I vaguely remember him scoring a touchdown against Cleveland or something.
Yeah,
On Thursday Night Football. Don't ask me how I remember.
he had
Went
10
to-
attempts, 71 yards, and 2 touchdowns rushing.
Oh, he had 2 touchdowns. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
He went to my college. He went to Rutgers, so I want to like him. And he's a fun player. He'll plays out of the shotgun, out of the Wildcat. He's like Brad Smith if you're paying Brad Smith 2 or 3 times as much as Brad Smith gets paid.
Yeah, sadly, he was Rutgers' best quarterback at the time, too.
Yeah, but that says a lot more about Rutgers football than anything else.
I was right. I think his pay came from 2014 where he had 56 catches for 790 yards and 5 touchdowns, which still isn't great. I think last season, I think Marvin Jones didn't play in 2014.
Yes.
Marvin Jones had a really good year this year, got a huge deal with Detroit. But I think that in replacement of Marvin Jones, he had a decent year opposite of Green, and I think that's where he got his money. But I still don't.
I mean, even that year, this might be nitpicky, but even that year is maybe only even worth that money. It's by far his best year. And he got 98 attempts for those 56 catches and 790 yards, which means...
98 targets, you mean?
Or 98 targets, which...
Yeah.
That's not great. I mean, that could be on the quarterback, but...
Well, Andy Dalton in 2014, to be fair, wasn't really that great either.
Yeah, that's true.
He had a really bad year, actually. But I don't know why I'm defending him, because I don't think he's that great. So
Mohamed Sanu has 13 total career rushing and receiving touchdowns. And 1,700 yards.
And that's in 4 years, right?
Yeah, Calvin
So that's like
Johnson
3
beaten
touchdowns
that
a
in
year.
1 year.
Calvin Johnson's got that in 1 game. Averaging a year.
Not quite, but...
I'm just kidding.
And then one other point about Atlanta, I think we've trashed Sanu enough. Their pass rush wasn't very good last year. In fact, it was the worst in the NFL, and it's still going
Even
to
with
be
Vic Beasley.
Well, they did, yes.
They drafted him. Even with him, it wasn't that great.
Well, he led their team with 4 sacks.
I did not realize it was that bad. Wow. 4 sacks as your leader, that's really bad.
They didn't
really,
have a
really
bad rushing defense, though, did they?
No, I don't think so, but
Yeah.
like that might be why they were
rush
so
is
bad in the
super
division.
Yeah, because their pass defense was awful. Their rush wasn't bad, but overall they were 22nd overall according to DVOA. So that's not great.
Desmond Trufant as a corner, who's very, 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 very good.
Yes.
Understated.
Also, one last thing about Sanu though, 5 for 5 all-time quarterback or on passes. It's the best quarterback on the team. Book it.
The statistics,
Watch.
yeah. I think he has 3 touchdown passes too, doesn't he?
Oh, I have no idea. I looked.
It's
two.
He has 2 touchdowns.
Wow, that's about as many as he caught last year. No, it's 2.
No, it's 2 more than he caught last year.
He didn't catch any. He caught 0.
Right.
Everything
I
we
guess
say
that's
about
enough of
Sanu.
Atlanta.
Yeah, I think we're good on the Falcons. They're overwhelmingly positive, but not too negative. We move on to a team that went 15-1 last year, won the conference, lost in the Super Bowl, but I think there's still a lot of optimism around them. The Carolina Panthers, who have also had a very, I think, interesting offseason.
Yeah, they don't like
agree.
cornerbacks very much.
How about them signing Brandon Boykin and then cutting him?
Yeah, I don't understand. Boykin might be the best nickel corner in the league, and no one wants him. Is there something else going on there?
Apparently not, because Pittsburgh didn't like him, and Carolina didn't even.
Yeah, but his play when he actually played, I mean,
he was good for the Eagles. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was good when he actually played for the Steelers, but he rarely played.
Something's up there, man.
Yeah, there's got to be something that's not football related there.
Let's see some of their transactions. Jared Allen retired, and they traded for him in the middle of the year last year, or not in the beginning. They got some good play out of him. They'll probably miss him a little bit.
There are
Josh Norman.
Wait, can I just on Brandon Boykin? There's rumors he had a degenerative hip condition.
That would make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that would make more sense. So that's a health concern. Anyway, the Josh Norman thing. What do you guys think about that? Carolina cutting Josh Norman and after Frank, which is bizarre.
Yeah, it was. I don't like that.
I think they should have at least kept him for the franchise tag year.
Yeah, I mean, I would have. If you want to let him go after next year. I don't get why they rescinded the tag.
And if they didn't think he was going to play, then he wouldn't have counted against the cap. He wouldn't have played. They wouldn't have to pay him. I don't see how it helps to let him go to another team that could be your rival and not.
Maybe they were worried about it being a distraction or something, which I still disagree with them letting him go. Maybe that was their thinking, though.
That's also horrible thinking. Then you release maybe the best cornerback from the NFL last year because he might be. I don't know.
Also,
no, I agree with you completely.
Yeah, I agree with you too, but not American football related. But Kyle, did you know Josh Norman's a huge PSG fan?
There you go, Jake.
Yeah,
we did not know that.
Yeah, interesting.
I think you wish the Eagles signed him now.
I do.
Jason, something you like, because they got rid of Josh Norman, I think their number one corner is Benny Ben Wickery now.
You are correct. That is their number one corner, who got hurt last year, I believe, towards the end of the season, which kind of hurt them a little bit, but clearly they made it to the Super Bowl, so not.
And they didn't lose because of their pass defense.
They did not. They lost because of. Well, I'm not even going to put it on their offensive line, which by the way improved greatly from the season before to last year. It was just Denver's defense was playing on a whole nother level during the postseason last year. I don't think anybody could have stopped them. That's the only reason not the only reason, but that's why Carolina had a tough time in the Super Bowl, in my opinion. The defense was just smothering.
Yeah, Denver and Carolina, the top 2 defenses in the league last year, the DVOA.
Played in the Super Bowl, and
in the Super Bowl though,
Denver. A gap between the two.
Yeah. Well, Denver was way better.
Yeah, clearly.
They drafted 3 corners.
They did. They drafted. Let me see the names of these corners.
I got them. James Bradbury, Daryl Worley, and Zach Sanchez. Zach Sanchez, 5th rounder, more of a flyer, but 2nd and 3rd round picks you would expect some decent contribution.
I guess they're worried about Ben Wickery coming back off of that broken. I think he broke his shin or something. He had broken leg. He had a pretty bad injury.
They also let Roman Harper leave, which apparently he was decent for them, but after watching him in New Orleans, I can't imagine that was true, so I'm going to assume that's a positive.
Or it's just an outlier year, one blip on the radar.
Yeah, or maybe Kurt Coleman made him look good.
Yeah, Kurt Coleman.
Carolina just turns people into good defenders. That might be their thing at this point. Yeah,
Sean McDermott, man.
Yeah, the Carolina.
I'm surprised he didn't get a coaching offer. Honestly, yeah, I'm surprised he didn't get an interview for. I don't even think he got an interview from anybody.
No, I thought the Eagles were gonna hire him before they hired Peterson.
I agree.
That's who I thought
it was going to be. How we talk a little bit about their offense, because that was honestly they did have a great defense last year, but I think the offense is what was making all the headlines.
Well, the reason though, what did they do on offense this offseason?
Not very much.
Yeah, barely.
Well, they get Kelvin Benjamin back. He's going to be healthy. That's not a transaction.
I mean, they re-signed Joe Webb.
Oh, that's
big, right? Your backup quarterback.
Well, if they have to play a Tuesday night game, Joe Webb can be their guy.
If they have to play a Tuesday night game, which has playoff implications, put Joe Webb in. I'll never forget that. They cut Charles Johnson, which is one thing I think people forget. They cut Charles Johnson and then re-signed him.
For a lot less money.
For a lot less money, yeah.
No, that was a great move.
That was a great move, yeah. So I honestly think the Panthers are going to be right back in business this year. Don't think they're going to be 15-1. That obviously that's almost impossible to do twice in 2 years in a row. But I think Carolina could be a solid 11-5, 12-4 next year. I think I have them winning the division.
Oh, can I also say I love their first round pick. Not because I know he'll be a good player, but I like that they didn't really pick for need. They have defensive tackles, but they thought he was the best player, and they picked Vernon Butler. I think that's the proper approach.
I mean, when you're drafting that far down,
I'm also thinking that Lou Tuele probably won't be there after this season. I think his contract's up. That they favor. My God, I'm having brain farts out the ass today. I apologize.
Yeah, but how often does a team pick a first round pick with the idea? I know what you're talking about. How often do they pick a first round pick with the idea of having them take over next year?
I mean, in their case, I guess they did.
That's
smart. Probably what they were thinking. Am I right?
Yeah, I like it.
Wasn't a huge fan of it, but I mean, I'll get over it. I think they should have drafted Miles Jack, honestly.
I'm with you, Jason. I would have taken the risk on Jack.
Yeah.
He was he was probably my second favorite player in the draft.
He was up there for me. I liked him a lot. I thought he was going in the top 10, so I mean, getting him at 31 would have just be a great steal.
Yeah.
Okay, are we good with Carolina too?
I guess we are.
Let's get to the overall division projections then. Anyone want to start?
I'll start.
Go for it.
I guess I'll start with Tampa. I like Tampa to finish second this year. They were last season. I think they went 6-10 last year, if I'm not mistaken. I think that will improve greatly. I think they'll be an 8-8, 9-7 football team, but you'll see strides being made, big strides. I think the year after that, they'll be competing for the division. New Orleans Saints, I like them as well. The defense still worries me. I think they'll be a good football team that can beat anybody any Sunday. Don't think they'll make the playoffs, though. I have the Saints going 8-8.
Wow.
The Atlanta Falcons, I'm honestly the lowest on them out of the four teams. I just don't love the Falcons. I don't really like their offseason that much. I like the Alex Mack signing, but other than that, not too high on the Falcons. I think the Falcons are on 6-10, and I think they'll be making major roster changes next offseason. As for the Panthers, as I said, I have them winning the division again. I think they're the best team in the division, possibly the best team in the NFC with Green Bay. And I think they'll go 11-5, 12-4, and I think they'll be right back in the mix to go back to the Super Bowl.
Okay.
So that's my prediction for the NFC South.
Jake, you want to go, or should I?
No, I'll go. Last week I was all in agreement with Jay on the standing predictions, but this week, no. Panthers at the top. Yeah, probably 12-4. But after that, I think that the Falcons will be back in second place. I don't think they're going to be great. I just think they're going to stay, 7-9, 8-8.
So you don't think they're going to make the playoffs? Then?
No, I'm with you on that. But I mean, I
Okay.
don't understand your optimism with the Saints. I think they'll go 5-11. Just looking at their schedule, I just don't.
I probably should have done that before I made a prediction.
Yeah,
I did not look at their schedule.
I mean, it's.
Well, yeah, what two divisions does the NFC South have? Is the real question.
They have.
Well, they get the AFC
West.
That's wrong.
And
that is wrong.
NFC West, I think. Yes.
They get the NFC West too?
Yep. They have Seattle, San Fran, LA in week 12.
Ooh.
LA in week 12, Seattle in week 8, San Fran in week 9, and then at Arizona week 15.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That is kind of brutal.
I mean, they start off against Oakland at home.
The early season schedule is pretty.
It's not an easy game, though. Not anymore. That's not an easy game.
No. Yeah, I don't think that's an automatic win at all. And then at New York after that, I don't think they win that game.
No.
And then Atlanta at home, I think they win. Then at San Diego, I think it's another loss. I think they start the season off 1-4. Then you have Carolina, so 1-5. At Kansas City. Yeah, I just don't.
Just named 5 games and said they'd be 1-5.
Yeah, 1-4. Thank you, Kyle. I struggle with the math sometimes. Yeah, you're the math guy.
Aren't you an economics major?
Although,
I'm not going to have you run my account.
No, but they will start. I think they'll start 2-4 or 1-5.
So overall,
so you're very low on the Saints.
Very, very low on the Saints. I think overall 5-11 at best.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Bucks, I think they're 7-9, 8-8. They'll be better. Baby steps. Yeah, Kyle. There you go.
Yeah,
sure.
Oh,
that was
all the teams. Yeah.
I think we're gonna have 2 playoff teams from the NFC South. You guys both think 1. So I think, as I said in my talk, I'm real low on New Orleans. I think Drew Brees is still there, so they'll still be competent. But I think as a roster, it's hard. It's barely an NFL team. I think they get 5 or 6 wins, probably 6 because Drew Brees is amazing. But it's going to be a struggle.
Real quick, the Saints, I feel like they're almost like a savant in a way that Brees is incredible in carrying the team, but the rest of the team, yeah, I mean, I think that, Kyle, how did we describe the Sixers again? An NBA team with Down syndrome? That would be the rest of the Saints. Outside Breeze.
So Saints I'm low on. Atlanta I'm also low on. I don't see anything they're particularly good at, and you need a pass defense. If you're not good at anything, you better be at least competent at everything, and they're not. I think they're going to regress a little bit, 6 or 7 wins. I think you could also have one of those teams really bottom out, especially if their quarterbacks regress a bit. You could see a really poor team, like 3 wins, 4 wins.
We also, in these predictions, don't factor in injuries. Every year there's a big injury in the NFL that ravages a team.
Right,
so.
but you can't predict that.
You can't predict that. Yeah,
if Drew Brees goes down, they're probably 0-16. But
maybe not 0-16, but they'll be pretty bad.
They're truly horrendous. I think Tampa's going to make the playoffs, and I'm honestly wrestling with whether I want to pick them to win the division.
Oh wow! So you really like Tampa a lot.
They went 6-10.
I like Tampa. I just don't see them making the playoffs yet.
They were so much better in the second half of the year, and their defense has had a big upgrade. They have a young quarterback who should improve, and I don't think their schedule's too brutal. I mean, it's not easy either, but it's not too bad. I think they're going to win 10 or 11 games and make the playoffs, and I think Carolina will win the division, but I think they'll win 11 or 12 games. If Tampa Bay usurps them, wouldn't be shocked at that. Can I just say, the first 5 games for Tampa is at Philly, at Jacksonville, home versus Cleveland and Washington, and at Atlanta. They could easily be 5-0.
Yes. I think that the Eagles and Atlanta are the only games I'm not.
I think you went into the preseason a little bit.
Oh, I did, absolutely. That's so off. Okay.
They open against Atlanta.
Yeah, they do got to play at Arizona and at Carolina.
I was going to say, as an Eagles fan, I know that we open up at home against Cleveland, 1 p.m.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That wasn't right.
But they have a run after the first 5 games at the 49ers, and then Oakland, the Falcons, and the Bears all at home. I think that's 4 straight.
They're all winnable right there.
And they also, I think they have a nice mix. Their road games, the only three really tough games they have is at Arizona, at Kansas City, and at Carolina. The other harder games, Seattle,
But that's
Carolina
at the end of the
again,
year.
Denver,
Is that on Thanksgiving? No, it's not.
Oakland. They have a lot of their hard games at home. I think they're going to make the playoffs. But just my opinion.
It wouldn't shock me. I think they'll still end up at around 500. But yeah, playoffs wouldn't shock me.
And I think Mike Evans is going to be amazing.
I like your optimism.
I like your optimism as well, Kyle.
I don't even like Tampa. I can't stand Jameis Winston.
Oh yeah, he's.
So I don't know if it's optimism, but I think they're a very good team.
I don't dislike Tampa personally. Even though I was personally got to watch them destroy my Eagles in person last year. I do not dislike them. I root for teams that are young, that have been bad for a while, that are young, and that I could see improving. I like Tampa.
I mean, I will never root for Tampa. Very first football game I can remember watching. 2002, 2003 NFC Championship game.
Yep.
Yeah, heartbreaking.
Last game at the vet.
Yeah, rough one.
Yeah, that one goes down in Philly lore as one of the worst losses. But all right. Well, does that just about wrap this week up, guys?
Yeah, I think we're about good. Remember, special edition on Tuesday. Anything you want us to talk about, let us know and we will. But outside of that,
add us on Twitter. I run our Twitter. I will respond and I'll make sure that we get your wish on the show.
And next weekend we'll resume with the division stuff with the AFC South. Anyway, until next time, I'm Kyle with Jason and Jake. Have a nice evening, or whenever you're listening to this.
See you guys.